Coming up on Workopolis TV, what you need to know about applying for jobs online.
Because so many employers are looking for keyword matches on resumes, you want to make sure that you're giving them what they want.
Workopolis TV starts right now. If you haven't already, you will likely one day apply for a job online. Technology has changed the process, and it pays to know how to make the most of it. Mark Swartz is the career advisor at Workopolis.com. He joins us now with some advice on that. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here, Bruce.
The internet clearly has changed the job search practice and process. How has it changed things?
Well, in some ways it's made it easier, and in other ways it's actually made it harder.
One for each category. How is it easier? How is it harder?
Well, it's easier in the sense that all the jobs that you used to have to look for in a newspaper or in trade publications, many of those are now actually online in the major job banks or even specialty job banks. On the other hand, because they're so easy to find, so many folks are going after those as their primary means of looking for work that the competition is just enormous.
What advice would you have for people who haven't applied online before? What are the easy things they can do to up the probability of getting through the electronic web?
Well, the first is to know where to search. And in this case, if you're going to be looking for jobs themselves, then you've got the two major job boards in Canada, which are Workopolis.com and Monster.ca. Before you get on, though, it's good to sort of reconnoiter. Go over what kinds of jobs are being offered. Take a look at what they're being asked for in terms of skills, your experience, etc. And then make sure that you adapt your resume such that it matches what they're asking for. Because so many employers are looking for keyword matches on resumes, you want to make sure that you're giving them what they want.
And it would seem that some of the pitfalls would include, because it's so easy, broadly applying without customizing your material to the job at hand in a way that you wouldn't necessarily have done in the past.
Well, exactly. And you do want to make sure that you customize each cover letter, for example, to a particular employer. If there's a chance to do that, you want to make sure that the resume itself is targeted, and you want to make sure it's perfect.
Take us into the world of the hiring manager these days. And I ask because one of the people that I talked to recently said that she receives 1,000 resumes for each posting, and that anyone who doesn't put their name in the subject line, she deletes out immediately just to try and whittle the pile down. If it's easier for the applicant, it must be harder in some ways for the hiring manager.
Well, in some ways it is, but you know what? In other ways it's funny, Bruce, because the technology has also helped them in some very profound ways. For example, there's something called applicant tracking systems, which is really the software and hardware behind getting the 1,000 resumes processed very quickly, electronically, using keyword searches, for example, and boom, all of a sudden, the top 20 resumes appear at the head of the pile, and then that manager has a chance to look at those and then proceed further. What
would be some of the keywords? I think people should know what they are so they can load their resume with them.
And you know, it's funny because in the States, there's actually folks who market themselves as keyword providers or guessers. I mean, essentially, it's an educated guessing game. But you know, you don't have to be a psychic to divine this. When you look at what the employer is asking for in the job itself, when you look at related jobs that are also probably posted on the job site, you'll see typical terms, typical experiences.
Like leadership, team building, analytics, or things like that?
If it's like a finance job, you're going to be seeing finance, financial analysis, projections, budgeting, etc. So those kinds of specific, the technical terms, for example, and then, as you had mentioned, the soft skill terms as well.
I want to ask you about confidentiality, because when in the old days, you'd submit it to HR, relatively few eyes would see your resume. Today, a lot can. What should people know about how that's handled?
Well, essentially, when you're applying to a job online, it depends if you're applying through a company itself, a legitimate company, or if you're posting your resume onto a website. The advice I have for that is, if you're going to put your resume online, make sure it's with a credible job bank that has a privacy policy clearly stated, and also one that has a privacy option. For example, both Monster and Workopolis allow you to put your resume into their database. You have three choices. You can save it there without anybody seeing it. So when you want to use it, you just call it up. Or you can have anybody who goes into that database, basically their employers or their recruiters, so it's not like the whole world can see them, but they can take a look at your resume when they want to. Or you can have a confidentiality clause, which essentially says, okay, they can see my resume, but they can't see my name or phone number or email. And in the case of Monster, they can't see your current employer either.
Very interesting. Mark, thanks for being here tonight. It's a lot
You're very welcome.
in this realm. Mark Swartz, career advisor with Workopolis.com.